You sit there feeling inspired, not a little inspired, extremely inspired. Your posture is better. Your jaw is clenched with purpose. Your brain is buzzing with quotes like discipline beats motivation and grind now shine later. You've just watched 10 motivation videos back to back, and for a brief, beautiful moment, you are unstoppable. You are a new person, a productive person, a person who definitely has their life together now. And then, nothing happens. You don't move. You don't start. You just sit there, inspired, scrolling for the next video. This is one of the most confusing experiences of modern life. You consumed hours of content specifically designed to make you act, and somehow it had the opposite effect. You feel motivated, but also strangely tired, like you already did something hard. Your brain feels full, but your task list is untouched. And deep down, there's a quiet question forming. Why didn't any of that work? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Motivation videos are really good at creating emotion, not action. They give you the feeling of progress without the friction of progress. Your brain doesn't actually know the difference at first. When you watch someone talk passionately about success, struggle, and discipline, your brain partially simulates the experience. You feel aligned with the message. You imagine yourself succeeding, and that imagination creates a small dopamine release, not enough to change your life, but enough to feel like something happened. That feeling is the trap. Your brain interprets it as closure. You didn't do the work, but you emotionally process the idea of doing the work. And for a brain that's constantly trying to save energy, that's close enough. It's like watching workout videos and feeling sore just from imagining it. No calories burned, no muscles built, but the brain checks a box anyway. Motivation content also removes uncertainty. It tells you what you should want, how you should feel, and what success looks like. That's comforting. Real work is messy. It's unclear. It involves starting badly and feeling stupid for a while. Motivation videos skip that part. They show the highlight reel, and your brain prefers clarity over chaos, even if that clarity is fake. There's also a timing issue no one talks about. Motivation spikes are short-lived. They're designed to be. The emotional high fades quickly because emotions are not stable fuel. They're sparks. If you don't convert that spark into action immediately, it dies. And instead of blaming the timing, most people blame themselves. They think they lack discipline. In reality, they just waited too long. Another strange thing happens when you watch too much motivational content. You outsource responsibility. You start relying on the next video to push you instead of building internal cues to act. The moment you feel resistance, your brain says, maybe I just need more motivation. So you watch another video and another. And suddenly, motivation becomes entertainment, not a tool. This creates a loop that looks productive from the outside but changes nothing on the inside. You consume. You feel inspired. You don't act. You feel guilty. You consume again to fix the guilt. And because the videos always end on a high note, you never sit long enough with the discomfort that actually triggers action. You smooth it over with another speech, another quote, another cinematic montage. What's ironic is that most motivation videos talk about discipline and consistency, but the act of watching them is often a form of avoidance. Not because you're lazy, but because watching feels safer than starting. Starting exposes you to failure. Watching exposes you to hope, and hope feels better in the short term. Your brain also confuses information with transformation. Learning about productivity feels like being productive. Understanding mindset feels like having one. But knowledge doesn't move your body. Only decisions do. And motivation videos rarely ask you to make a specific, uncomfortable decision right now. They ask you to believe something. Belief is easy. Action is not. There's nothing wrong with feeling inspired. The problem is thinking inspiration alone is enough. It's not. Inspiration is a signal, not a solution. It's supposed to point you somewhere, not replace the journey. When you treat motivation as the engine instead of the ignition, you end up revving without moving. The funniest part is how predictable this pattern is. You don't need to guess whether you'll act after the 10th video. You already know the answer. You'll feel good, then tired, then oddly empty. And then you'll either scroll for more or tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, which feels responsible, until tomorrow becomes today, and the cycle repeats. The real issue isn't that motivation videos don't work. It's that they work too well at the wrong thing. They give you emotion without effort, clarity without struggle, and identity without behavior. And your brain happily accepts the shortcut. In the next part, we'll talk about why real change usually feels boring at first, why motivation fades the moment action begins, and how to use inspiration the right way so it actually leads to movement instead of another video. Real change almost never feels like the movies promised. There's no background music when you open a blank document, no dramatic voiceover when you clean your room, no goosebumps when you start the task you've been avoiding. In fact, the moment you actually try to act on that motivation, something strange happens. The motivation drops, not slowly, instantly. And most people think that means they're doing something wrong. They're not. That drop is normal. Motivation is an emotional response to an idea, not to execution. The second you move from imagining a better life to doing the work required to build it, your brain switches modes. It stops dreaming and starts calculating effort, discomfort, and risk. That calculation is rarely flattering. Your brain looks at the task and says this is harder than expected, more boring than expected, and less rewarding than expected. So it pulls the plug on motivation to protect energy. This is why waiting to feel motivated before acting is a losing strategy. Motivation is what shows up before clarity, not after commitment. If you wait for it to stay, you'll wait forever. The people who actually change don't feel more motivated than everyone else. They just start while feeling nothing, or worse, while feeling resistance. Here's the part that feels unfair. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. But action starts without it. That means the first few minutes of real work almost always feel dull, awkward, and uncomfortable. Your brain isn't used to the task yet. There's no momentum, no reward, just friction. And because motivation content rarely shows this phase, people assume something is broken when they experience it. Another reason nothing happens after those videos is because they don't tell you what to do next in a concrete way. They talk about big ideas like discipline, success, and purpose. But your brain doesn't act on abstractions. It acts on specifics. Sit down, open this file, write one sentence, stand up, put on your shoes. Small instructions bypass emotion and trigger behavior. Big ideas don't. When you finish watching a motivational video, your brain is wide open but unfocused. It's like revving an engine in neutral. If you don't immediately attach that energy to a simple action, it dissipates. That's why the most effective use of motivation is boring. It looks like starting the smallest possible version of the task before your brain has time to argue. There's also an identity trap hidden in motivation content. After watching enough of it, you start to see yourself as someone who is about to change, someone who is learning, someone who is getting ready. That identity feels good, but it can quietly replace the identity of someone who is actually doing. You become a student of improvement instead of a participant in it. This is why some people feel strangely defensive when they're told to stop watching motivation and start acting. The videos have become part of who they are. Letting go of them feels like letting go of hope. But hope doesn't come from watching. It comes from evidence. And evidence only comes from action, even small action. There's a simple shift that changes everything. Stop asking how motivated you feel and start asking what the next tiny action is. Not the whole plan, not the final goal, just the next physical movement. Motivation can't argue with movement. Once you move, you're already winning. This doesn't mean motivation content is useless. It just needs boundaries. It should be used sparingly and intentionally, like caffeine. A small dose to wake you up, not a meal replacement. If you need motivation every day to do the same task, the problem isn't motivation. It's the system around the task. Real progress feels quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel cinematic. Most days it feels like nothing is happening. But over time, those boring starts stack up. And one day, you realize you didn't need 10 videos to begin. You just needed one small action and the willingness to feel uncomfortable for 5 minutes. That's the part no one puts in a montage, but that's where change actually lives.